When it comes to ISO, there's a lot of confusion. So many photographers believe that you have to shoot at the lowest possible ISO 50 or 100. But in my opinion, any of the latest DSLRs on the market right now could handle shooting at an ISO of 400, 600, or even 800. So I like shooting somewhere around 400, which is a few stops brighter than 100. The real problem kicks in is if you're in a location where you don't have any available light, and that's when you're going to get serious grain. But in that type of location, you're going to have grain even at 200. So when you're outside using natural light, as long as my camera is under 400, I'm a happy camper. In fact, I don't like being at a lowest ISO because sometimes without realizing, being an aperture priority will cause the camera to really slow its shutter by itself and you won't realize it. And if you're in a shady area, your shutter is going to be too slow to freeze the motion in your portrait. Let's go ahead and talk about what's important to be in focus in a portrait. When you're looking at a person in the street or when you're looking at a portrait in a magazine, what your eye goes to first and what the viewer's eye goes to first is the eyes in the picture. So what you want to be in focus when you're taking a portrait is the eyes. Your camera has the option to choose a single focus point and you're able to move that focus point within your composition. So once you have that composition right, move that focus point to the eyes and that's where the camera is going to focus. A very common question I get is how my subject's background is always blurred out, but they're walking towards me and I'm capturing that motion. Being able to shoot at a wide aperture and blurring out the backgrounds while your subject is walking towards you can only work when you have the right setting on your camera. Every camera has two settings when it comes to your autofocus. It has the autofocus single servo, which means that you take a picture, as your shutter button is pushed down, it's only going to focus once, and if your subject moves out of focus, your camera will not refocus. And then there's the second option that your camera has, which is the continuous autofocus. This means that as long as you're gunning your camera or even pushing your shutter button halfway, your camera is going to continuously refocus between each frame. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start off in autofocus single servo and try to take pictures of Chelsea walking towards me as I walk back or even stay stationary. And you'll see how only the first image will be in focus and then every one after that will be out of focus. All right, I'll tell you when to start walking. All right, go ahead and walk. As you could see, the first image is when the camera locked in its focus. And then with each frame, as she got closer to me, she was more and more out of focus. This is why it's crucial to have the right focus setting. The thing is that if you're in continuous focus and always stay in continuous focus, your camera never confirms whether or not you're in focus. You don't have that beep that you get in single servo. So you're going to have to be conscious when looking through your viewfinder to make sure your camera is in focus. Because if I start off with focused on something else in my background, the background is going to be in focus. So you have to make sure that if your camera does stay in continuous focus, that your subject is always in focus and that your focus point is always on your subject's eyes. So now I'm going to go ahead and change my camera to AFC. And I'm going to take a few pictures of Chelsea walking towards me. I'm going to be shooting at an aperture of 1.8, which is really, really shallow. And if I hadn't been in autofocus, continuous, she would have been out of focus within the first half a foot she took. So let's go ahead and do this again. So I have my focus point right on her face, and now I'm just going to gun my camera as she walks towards me. And if I'm correct, every frame is going to be in focus, exactly the way I want it. Go ahead and start walking towards me. I'm just looking through each frame, and each frame, while she was walking towards me, is completely in focus, and the background is totally blurred out. This is why it's essential to have the right focus mode on your camera when you're out taking pictures. Because if it's not the right one, it's very hard to capture these moving images where there's motion and your subject is walking towards you with blurred out backgrounds. It will take you quite a while to master these settings and figure out which ones work for you and how your camera functions and where the buttons are. But the most important thing to understand is that you want to master these settings and have them come to you as second nature so you could concentrate on other important aspects of portrait photography. We've gone ahead and covered things such as the settings and gear. It's very important to master these, put them to the side, and concentrate on other aspects of portrait photography. So let's go ahead, take you on another photo shoot, and talk to you all about location and the light, colors, and expressions.